Hi YouTube, G-Clef here with another episode of Answering Anti-Islam. This episode is called Sharia Law and World Domination. Before I read this transcript, I want to basically direct you to other things that I'm doing, essentially debunking notions about Islam that are perpetrated by websites like Religion of Peace and such. You may want to check out my Quora. I've done a lot of answers on Islam, from simple ones to very complex ones. And maybe if I haven't covered something that you're looking to find an answer to, you could check that out. I'll put the link up in the description and also on the screen here. So, Episode 2, Sharia Law and World Domination. A typical misunderstanding comes from the misnomer Sharia law. When Westerners, especially Christians, think of law, they think of the law of courts. They think of the modern codified law of the land. Sharia law is a divine law that has no immediate earthly court system. It is an ethical code akin to the Jewish halakha and/or the Ten Commandments. The closest to an earthly court system Sharia law gets is in fiqh law, but both depend on what Islamic school a Muslim adheres to. This means not all Muslims agree on what Sharia law is or isn't, and subsequently have different views when these religious precepts are used in fiqh law. Instead of calling it Sharia law, a more accurate description in my mind would be Islamic ethical code or Islamic ethical principles. Sharia law uses the Quran and hadiths. Hadiths are reports of the sayings and doings of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam by his companions to divine law, or more crudely, what Allah demands is lawful. One need not be an Islamic scholar or student to see the precepts written in the Quran. Aside from asserting there is only one true God and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the prophet of God, there are other concepts in the Quran that some may consider minor. As an example, let's use the Quran's verses on suicide. And do not kill yourselves. Surely God is merciful to you. Quran 4:29. And do not throw yourselves into destruction. Quran 2:195. Given the finality of these verses, even without context, one can see it to be hard to argue that suicide is forbidden in Islam. Following this premise, many modern scholars, as suicide bombing is decidedly a modern 20th century invention, shun the use of suicide attacks. I've had some people say to me that suicide attacking was always allowed, but it was not documented until the late 20th century. I'd love to see the proof for that. That is not to say some who claim to be Muslims do not corrupt the precepts of Sharia law. However, the majority of modern Islamic scholarship agrees those condoning suicide attacks are not following Sharia law and are therefore not Muslims. Just as to be a Christian means having specific beliefs, so does being a Muslim. Because of the Quranic views of the other Abrahamic religions, Judaism and Christianity, and claims of corruption of those religions, Islamic scholars have put together these precepts and religious laws to ensure that there is no interpretation allowed outside the realm of orthodoxy. Indeed, without Islamic scholarship, anyone can interpret anything any way they want. Putting aside the infighting between Shia and Sunni, based on the belief of who the proper successor was to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even just looking at the Sunni branch of Islam presents a problem with implementing what some conspiracy theorists call worldwide Sharia law. What they really mean to say is worldwide fiqh law, but even then, the problem of multiple schools of thought in one branch still exists. When debating or talking about the possibility of Islamic domination of the world, I liken it to the historical position that if John F. Kennedy was elected, he would be doing the bidding of the Catholic Church. Or perhaps more illustrative, the coming together of all Christians to create a worldwide Christian rule. It's just never going to happen. In both cases of Islam and Christianity, its adherents have too many internal struggles between each other to ever organize world domination. And even if it did happen, infighting would assure it wouldn't last for long. Of course, I'm also aware that some Muslims want to see Sharia law imposed on the world. They are just as loony as the conspiracy theorists. Islamic laws, both Sharia and fiqh, are meant for only Muslims to follow. Non-Muslims, historically first Jews and Christians, but later even polytheists, are given dhimmi status under traditional caliphates. It seems both extreme sides drank the Kool-Aid on this one. Oh yeah! Recently on Facebook, there was a post claiming acid attacks had something to do with Sharia law. I have the actual photo here from that post, but I've edited out the injury so that the audience isn't disturbed. Here's the photo. This is a great example of a false dilemma. I have challenged people who believe Sharia law condones acid attacks to show me the exact hadith, and I have yet to see proof of this claim. Further, Act for America was founded by none other than the star of our first minisode, Brigitte Gabriel, a claimed survivor of an attack during the Lebanese Civil War, who is now outspoken about Islam. Not only do we have a bogus claim, but we also have a proven biased source of that claim. For anyone on either extreme side to believe Sharia precepts allow for things like acid attacks, suicide bombings, and honor killings makes no sense. Not only does it defy the basic logic of Islamic Sharia and fiqh, but there have also been fatwas against those very things. Speaking of fatwas, stay tuned for our next minisode. Answering anti-Islam. Why don't Muslims speak out against terrorism? In that minisode, I will go more in depth about fiqh law and what it means for terrorism.